We're live. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the 83rd edition of the Boxing Gossip podcast. Thank you very much to everyone for joining. I can see we've got a lot of the usual faces in the chat tonight. So hello to all of you guys. Hello to Tony, who's joining live for the first time in a while. Hello to Del Boy, excellent channel. Hello to everyone there. Thanks for joining in. Please hit the thumbs up button if you're watching live. That will help spread this to even more people and get even more people joining as we go live. Tonight, we have a substantially depleted panel. Irish, Tom and Jet are both under the weather, unfortunately, so aren't joining in. Jay is at work. Some of those guys may make a cameo, but pleased that we've got Sherry and we have Paul, who've joined already. So you've got the three musketeers at the very least. Let's start by bringing in Paul. And Paul, before we get into the boxing, you're hoping to start some uploading on your YouTube channel in the next few days.
Yes, mate. Yeah, I was just actually in the middle of writing a comment, but I'll say it now as soon as you brought me straight in. Yeah, like apologies to anybody that obviously, you know, subscribed last week and whatnot. Really appreciate the support and whatnot, and just apologies for no uploads this week. I've had a bit of a hectic week, but tomorrow probably a couple of videos will be going up. So yeah, nice one, guys.
Fantastic. Yeah, so give Paul a subscribe if you want even more boxing content. His YouTube name is Abstract Boxing and Stuff, and you're spelling abstract ABZTRACT. For you guys watching in the chat, he has just put a comment in the chat, so you can link to his page by clicking on that. So yeah, thanks for that. It's a busy, well, it's going to be a busy period in boxing, but it kind of doesn't kick off in earnest till we get into February. But there's still quite a lot to discuss tonight. And I guess we can start off by going back to last week's boxing and taking a look at Errol Spence versus Lamont Peterson. Were you able to watch the fight, Paul?
Yes, mate. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it was a decent fight. You know, I thought Errol Spence looked good. I thought he looked good. Good variety from him. Jab was nice. Nice pressure. Peterson. I mean, look, from the perspective of looking at Errol Spence, he dealt with Lamont Peterson in probably the most emphatic way anybody has. I don't really think I've seen anybody deal with Lamont Peterson quite so easily. Having said that, Lamont Peterson for me looks. I don't know if he's done. I don't know if he's just done. Like, I think the writing was on the wall. Like, I think it was between round. I think it was either at the end of the first or at the end of the second. I think it was the end of the first, actually. His trainer said, what do you see? And he says, I know, I need to work the jab more. And the trainer says, yeah, jab and the right hook, throw the right hook more. And he says, yeah. And he came out and he just was unable to throw it. And that, you know, like when you know what you need to do and you have like the will to do it and then don't, that's usually a bit of an indicator that you kind of might be done a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I think Peterson might be pretty much finished, to be completely honest. He just looked so lackluster. He seemed to run out of ideas. He did seem to start moving a little bit better towards the end, but by then he just looked defeated. He looked absolutely defeated. One thing I did want to say is, what's the name of his coach again?
Is it Hunter? Barry Hunter?
Barry something. Yeah, Barry Hunter. Yeah. I was really, really impressed with Barry Hunter. You know, like he didn't stop it prematurely. He didn't make the decision in a rash way. He kind of, like, you could see him really give it some thought, and he looked into the guy's eyes, and for me, it was a good decision. Lamont just looked kind of like, and he actually said to him, you know, you make the call. And when a fighter's saying you make the call, for me, that's kind of, you know, like, if I want to keep fighting, I'm going to be like, don't you fucking dare stop it. Do you know what I mean? When you say you make the call, that for me is a guy that really doesn't want to be in there no more. And, you know, when a guy is at that point, I think the potential for him being hurt really badly is just increased. And Errol Spence is one of them fighters that, like, he's a big lump at welterweight. He's a fucking big lad, isn't he? And he sits down on his punches. And I just think that, you know, I know Peterson's durable guy, but I think the potential for him getting really badly hurt when his heart weren't in it, which I don't think it was towards that point. I think it was a really good call, but, you know, decent fight, good performance by Errol Spence. I think he is the truth. I think the name's pretty fit, and I think he is probably the best guy at 147. With the caveat of we don't know what Bud looks like at 147 yet, simply just because he hasn't fought there yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, good. I think that's a fair comment, Paul. I mean, I echo your sentiments about Barry Hunter. I do think Peterson was very poor tactically in the fight, and maybe it touches on what you were saying about he knew what to do, but he couldn't execute it against Spence. But do you know what? I felt he basically stood in front of Spence, you know, stood at the end of his work all night, and I just thought, you know, that was I just thought it was tactically a very, very poor performance. It almost reminded me of a Joe Gallagher type fighter at times.
Yeah, I mean, at certain points he seemed to be looking for one shot as well, and he's never been like a huge one punch knockout artist anyway. Peterson, I you know, like it struck me as a weird game plan at best, or no game plan, I suppose could be said. But I do think it's kind of like I think he's done. You know, like that's what I usually see from fighters just before they retire, when they have a really bad last fight and then they hang them up. That's what you usually see. I've seen it a few times where guys are saying, "Yeah, it's all right. I know what I need to do. I need to do A, B, and C," and then they come out and they just cannot do it. They just cannot. You know, like that. They just can't do it. And that's usually that. And I just like to see him hang him up after that. You know, he's kind of like, he's won world titles, Lamont Peterson. I rate him as a fighter. I think he's a very good boxer. And really anything else from here on in would just be like a bit pointless. And I don't think I can't see him ever getting back to the top or winning another world title. So I would like to see a guy like that just hang him up, to be completely honest.
Yeah, 147 is not the weight class for him, really. He looks small. He was never a big puncher, even at the lighter weight classes. You know, he's now getting on a bit. Like, it's just not going to work for him in my book. Paul, what about Spence Thurman? I did a video and I said I would probably lean to Spence in what I would admit is a very, very close fight. Who would you pick in that one?
I'd pick Spence. I'd pick Spence. I think Keith would try and use movement, but Spence cuts the ring off quite well. Spence is like, he's not. I don't know. He's quite fleet-footed when he wants to be. He doesn't seem to use sort of like really fast feet a lot of the time. But when he wants to let his work go, he wants to catch you. He's pretty decent. I mean, I think Spence is quite a well-rounded fighter, quite a versatile fighter. He's got great shot selection. His body punching is fantastic. His jab's looking better in the last couple of fights. You know, I'd pick Spence, to be completely honest. One thing I did notice, you know, you talked about Peterson's size there. I thought there was a big size difference. Like I was, you know what? I was looking at that thinking, I don't know how the hell Spence keeps making 147. He looks like a guy that wouldn't be able to make 147 to me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was bigger than Kell Brook by a margin when they fought.
Huge welterweight, man. He's a big lump, and I think that's gonna be a factor against a lot of welterweights. A lot of people seem to be assuming that because Crawford was a big fighter at 140 or big against certain fighters, that he's gonna just naturally go into 147. Doesn't necessarily work like that. Just because you're a big guy at a certain weight doesn't necessarily mean you just automatically are, you know, a welterweight or whatever. We've seen this a few times, haven't we, where guys are big at a certain weight and then they move up and they find that they're the small fish in the big sea again, like, if you like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And with Crawford, I guess that is the big unknown at present. How will he? A lot of people say his best win is still Gamboa. There's a huge size difference between Gamboa and Errol Spence.
Yeah.
I think Crawford has a technical advantage over both Spence and Thurman, but I don't think he hits as hard as either of them. And I doubt he's ever been hitting as hard in a competitive fight as either of them hit. What's your take on that, Paul?
I mean, I think regards Bud at 147. I think that just the jury's out until we see him having a couple of competitive fights at 147 and see what he looks like at 147. If we assume he looks as good at 147 as he did at 140, then I would pick him to beat all of them. I mean, like, I think if he can look decent at that weight, I think that fight would probably look a little bit like the Postol fight, where Crawford would be on his back foot, and Spence just wouldn't be able to get his work off, because Crawford is technically, like footwork wise, defense wise, is just so good. I have a feeling that might look a little bit like that, sort of like the big lump trying to fight, which is weird because Errol Spence is still a decent boxer, but I think Crawford's another level. I think it might just end up like him sort of like following Crawford around the ring all night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Some of those punches that Spence took at the hands of Kell Brook, you kind of feel that maybe Crawford would be able to have similar success, but he may have better movement and a bit more elusiveness and defensiveness than Kell Brook, perhaps.
Yeah. Look. I thought at the before Kell Brook fought Triple G, my opinion was, and I know everybody didn't share it. My opinion was that Kell Brook was probably the best fighter at 147 at that time. Um, but I think Crawford is in that area is a level above, um, possibly, and I think he's a level above anybody at 147. For sure. I think for me it is all down to how Crawford sort of like fits in at 147, how his body adjusts and stuff. I think the chances are he'll probably look good, because I think he struggled to make 140 towards the end. I think being able to sort of like eat more and like train and stuff. I think he'll probably be all right, but you just don't know until it happens.
Definitely. No, I'm with you, Paul. I'm with you. It's certainly the potential for some pretty exciting fights in that welterweight division. With those three guys active. I did see, just before I move it on, I don't know if you saw the news about Errol Spence's mandatory with the IBF, which will presumably be his next fight.
Um, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. It's against a guy called Carlos Ocampo. Me neither. I presume you're not familiar with his work, Paul.
Oh, substantially familiar. I've been a big fan for no, not a fucking clue.
Why did the IBF keep doing this? I mean, this guy might be the best fighter I've yet to see. Maybe he's a world class talent. I don't want to slag him off. I've never heard of him, and he may be very very good. But why have the IBF called Jojo Dan, Kevin Bizier, and now Carlos Ocampo in sort of relative quick succession? Surely it's not doing any good for them. It's not doing any good for their champions, and it's not doing any good for the sport.
I've got absolutely no idea. The way it seems to be with some of these governing bodies is, like they seem to it. I mean, this could be complete horseshit. I don't know this for a fact. It's just the way it appears. Like they seem to be in sort of like such sort of fierce competition with each other that when fighters are sort of like ranked with opposing governing bodies, that they don't seem to want to rank them or whatever. The IBF, that's what the IBF seem to do. And so they seem to just like pick from the rest, and you end up with, I've got no idea, mate. It's really weird. There's a few things that the IBF do that I've got no fucking clue why they do. They're just ridiculously like sort of like inconsistent and sort of like crazy sort of imposing of mandatories on fighters like really quickly in that. Was it was it Tyson Fury? They tried to, they stripped immediately, and then Charles Martin won the world title. They said he could have a year to enjoy the title. I'll never forget that when Tyson so quickly they stripped him, and then to say that, I just don't know how you sort of like do that and sort of like feel like I don't need to justify the total discrepancy here, and it's just ridiculous. But no, I've got no idea, mate. To be honest, no clue.
It's poor. We've got the WBC who lets their champions run riot and never have mandatories, and you have the IBF who seems to enforce mandatories as a matter of urgency and seem to choose the most unknown fighters in the division as a matter of course. It's
and then you've got
very bizarre sport sometimes.
And then you've got the WBC sort of like look at the Stevenson situation with Eleider Alvarez and stuff. Like, he's been fucking sitting in that mandatory position for what is it, about fucking 3 years or something, and gets sidestepped, like, I know he took step aside money and whatnot, like over and over and over again, and then all of a sudden Badou Jack's going to fight for the title, and then now you've got a fighter. It's just weird. Some of their behavior is just it's just inexplicable. I just don't understand why they work the way they do. Just very odd.
Very, very, very strange. Very strange. I would completely agree, mate. Sherry, let's bring you in. You're hearing this conversation, mate. First and foremost, give us your take on Spence versus Peterson.
Can you hear me, Tom?
Yeah, I'll turn you up, mate, just so I can get you as loud as possible. But you're coming through clearly.
Yeah, so in regards to the Spence and Peterson fight, I mean, it's one of those things where it was really like a very one-sided fight. I didn't give Peterson, a round. As you said yourself in your post-fight video, there was a lack of, like, I don't want to say lack of a game plan, but lack of a game plan that would have suited Peterson better. I mean, he stood there, like you said, a kind of mid-range and just caught all of caught all of, Spence's punches in a way. That he made no real, intention to try and get out of the way. A few times he started moving around, but that was only when we saw him get hurt, and it was evident when he got hurt. You saw him kind of tense up and stuff, and you see his eyes widen when he got caught with a few hooks to the head and stuff like that. And I think one good body shot Spence caught him with that kind of got him backpedaling a bit. And again, last week when me and you spoke at length about this, we said Peterson's got a few different styles and adjustments that he can make. But for whatever reason, he chose not to do that. Whether he just froze or whether he thought he can outlast Spence or whatever it is. If he had some sort of intention of doing what he did with Danny Garcia, maybe that's what it was. But obviously, like he said in his post fight, that this guy is a completely different fighter to a Danny Garcia. You know what I mean? Whatever he threw at him, he ate it up. He got caught clean with a few punches. He didn't even take a step back. He just kept coming forward. So clearly, Spence is, as Paul said, this guy's he's a unit. He's massive. I don't understand. He's very, very big. He's solid. His frame's massive. He's just I think as good as he is in terms of technically, I also think he's a combination of his size he's very, very big. I just think he's a big, strong guy. And I think that's also a big part of his game. And I think people need to pay attention to that as well, where he's a very overbearing figure in that regard as well. So that works into part of his, his whole skill set in a way. The fact that just that sheer size and that length and width of him, he's a big guy. And it'd be interesting to see what weight classes he can go to, because he's got a big frame. I think he's a relatively big guy who can move to 160 even. I mean, I saw a few articles about him and Canelo, but I don't want to get too carried away. But I don't see any reason why he can't walk in at 160 one day. But we'll see. That's down the line. But in regards to Peterson, as Paul said, I agree. I don't want to say he's finished, but he said in the interview afterwards he didn't have to think about it, because after that, really, what else is he going to do at welterweight now? He's not going to be able to work his way into a title shot at Thurman, or he's not going to fight Crawford or what's his name, Horn, whoever wins that fight. So maybe a rematch with Amir Khan whenever he comes back and whatever happens there. But apart from that, Peterson's not been active over the last 2-3 years. He fought Felix Diaz at the end of 2015. Then he fought Avanesian a year and a half later, and then he's fought now. So he's not been very active. He's 33 years old. He just took a pretty bad beating. And as Paul said, 100% full credit to his coach. That was actually one of the best decisions I've seen from a coach in a long time. And it wasn't just the fact that he pulled him out. At that point, it was the way he handled it. He gave him the full minute out of the round, and I think the bell rang for the 8th round, and then he said no. He took his time and made sure that he made the right decision for his fighter, and that's all you can hope for as boxing fans. We don't want to see these fighters get hurt and get injured. Of course they take injuries, but long-term injuries and things that are going to affect them later on in life. And Peterson's a guy who, if I'm honest, he's always been entertaining fights, and he's a guy who's always fought with heart. He's only ever really took a bad loss, like in terms of getting knocked out by Matisse, and even then he tried to get up. He wasn't just lying there. And the reality is, at the end of round 2 or 3, I remember they zoomed in on his face, and you could see in his face he was kind of bewildered. He already knew, I can't really do anything. But he's not the type of guy who's going to give up. If it ended badly, he would have got knocked out. He did get knocked down. Fair enough, he got up and carried on. But it wasn't going to end well for him. He would have got stopped, or it would have been 12 rounds with him just running around for the last few rounds. But the way Errol Spence fights, he's unrelenting with his pressure. He was cutting the ring down. He was chasing him everywhere. He would have stopped him, I think. So for Lamont Peterson's health, I think that's the best decision. And for if he wants to come back and have a few more fights, then fair play to him. He got lucky with not getting hurt badly, but it was very one-sided. But full respect to Errol Spence. I think he is, if I'm honest, the hungriest and best welterweight right now. What it is, they say it's it's easier becoming champion than it is staying champion. But I think with Spence, I think it could be a different situation with this guy. I think he genuinely wants to fight Keith Thurman, and he wants to fight Crawford and whoever else. Well, Horn for now, but if Crawford does beat him, which we all think he will, then he's going to want to fight him as well when the time comes. He's too big, like I said. He's just a massive guy. And his body work is what pays all the dividends in the end. He broke Peterson's body within the first 2-3 rounds. He was just body. Of course, he was jabbing him, but the body work is what it is. That's what broke Kell down as well. It's one of those things where I know styles make fights, and we haven't seen Spence take a big shot off a big puncher. And yeah, people say Kell, was a big puncher at welterweight. I don't think he was like a shot for shot big puncher. I think he could land. He's heavy-handed. But Thurman's like a big puncher, if that makes sense. He's a more heavy-handed, hitter than a Kell Brook. Again, like I said, we can't really judge because he hasn't been caught on the chin by a big puncher. So until that happens, we won't know. It's the same way Anthony Joshua. We didn't know where his chin was until Klitschko floored him. Fair enough. But he showed that he can be put down, he can be hurt, We've yet to see that with Spence yet. The body work is an issue for Thurman because he's been caught with I wouldn't say big puncher in Porter and not a big puncher in Collazo, but respectable punchers. But he's been caught like perfectly by them, if you will. And he's reacted and he's kind of like jolted and run around the ring. And Spence is going to finish him. That's the reality. Spence isn't going to let him off. He's just or start playing games. He's going to start whacking the body again and again. In the Collazo fight and the Porter fight, they didn't really capitalize on it as much as they tried to. Thurman managed to get his way, get out of it, or kind of block and get away. I don't. He's going to hit him to the other side of the body. He was going to find a way to get to the body again because he hits the body full stop. And Thurman clearly, I'm not saying he's weak, but that is his weak spot from what we've seen so far. So that's going to be interesting. But of course, as of right now, Keith Thurman, in terms of belts and resume, is the guy at 147. So I'm not going to disrespect him just because he's been out for nearly a year. But he's coming back, so we'll have to see. But he is a very, very interesting fighter, and he's a guy who's definitely number 2. He's no less than number 2. It's between him and Thurman ultimately for number 1 at 147. And Crawford hasn't had a fight yet, so we can't really rank him, to be fair.
Yeah. I agree with what you said before as well. I think Spence would have stopped Peterson. When I was about the stoppage and that, Spence cuts off the ring too well. I don't think Peterson would have even if he went into survival mode, I don't think he would have been able to survive.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
So yeah, good decision that.
Yeah,
I know Crawford is a bit of an unknown, Sherry, but if I sort of stuck it on you and said who would you pick if that fight was made at 147? Would you side with the sort of the proven power and size of Spence, or do you think there may be a skill advantage in Crawford's side?
You know what it is, Tom? It's one of those things where Crawford fought Gamboa at 135, yeah? So he was capable of bringing his body down to that weight Errol Spence, I don't think he can ever go. He's never been able to go any lower than 147. So naturally, that tells us that he's a bigger man and he can't physically do it. I've seen a few videos on HBO where they followed Crawford's weight loss, where he got into a sauna the night before and lost however many pounds. But the point is, he was still capable of making that weight on that day. So it shows that there's a big size differential just in that regard. It's all good and well packing on muscle and making weight, and then coming in at 147 and then coming into the ring at 163 the next day. But naturally, he's not. I don't think he's big enough. But I'm not saying that I think he'll lose the fight based on that. I mean, if you look at Crawford, he got hit by Gamboa a few times, and there's a few times he looked a bit shaky in that fight. And like you said, Gamboa was a super featherweight. So what was that? 130 was his best weight.
Yeah.
And Gamboa's never really looked the same since that fight. So Gamboa isn't a big guy. He probably had no business fighting a 135 even at that point, we can argue. And he gave him some trouble early on. Fair enough. Crawford finished him. But the reality is, like you said, not to disrespect Crawford and what he's accomplished since, but his best win in name value and level of win is Gamboa to this day, based on what Gamboa was and what people thought he was at that time. Postal, as much as he was a champion, we didn't really know, how good or bad he was, regardless of the fact that, to give you credit here, Tom, everyone on the panel picked Postal apart from you, I think, on that fight. We just thought he might be able to, beat Crawford. Or was it the other way around?
I think
you picked Crawford.
Crawford. I think Paul might have picked Postal.
I picked Postal based on his size. I just think he might have. I thought he might have been able to catch him. I thought he might have been too big.
Yeah, because
but like what you were saying, is Kell Brook is the perfect example of what you were saying there, Sherry. Like, before the Triple G fight, everybody. I mean, we all knew Triple G was going to win, but a lot of people were saying, oh, he's put on so much size, and then there was the I think it was a week out weigh-in where he was like 170 or whatever. He'd put on a load of muscle and meat and stuff, but in the ring. It
didn't mean anything
from day one that he was just going to get pounded. Triple G didn't even respect his, even that uppercut he caught him with. Triple G, he didn't even reset his feet. Everyone was saying, "Oh, he's caught him and everything." If you look at it, he didn't even reset. He didn't move. He just kept coming and smashed him up. You can't do it. You can't always do it. I mean, maybe it'll work for Crawford. I don't know, but we don't know, do we, until it happens?
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, Paul and Tom, I think if we go based on history, even I know I don't want to compare Crawford to the fighter I'm about to mention, Spence to the other fighter. I mean, Antonio Tarver and Roy Jones. Look at Roy Jones, what he was considered, and he went up to light heavy. What was it? Light heavy, wasn't it? I think they fought at light heavyweight. And he got knocked out, and he's never the same since. All the skill in the world, the same way Crawford has all the skill in the world. And we're saying he's the second coming of whoever and whatever he is. He's accomplished whatever it is, he's accomplished so far, and he's done great. But when he gets hit by Errol Spence clean, how do we know he's going to be able to take it? We don't know until we see him in with someone on that sort of level, And that's where the worry lies. We don't know if that size differential is pretty big, and I think it's going to be pretty big on the night. And that saying of a good little man kind of thing, that falls into it, doesn't it? The same way people say Lomachenko and Crawford need to fight. The reality is, as good as Lomachenko is, size plays a factor at some point. Pacquiao is a one-off, and he's always going to be shrouded with the PED thing. So, I'm not going into Pacquiao, but you get my point. You're not going to get a guy. Lomachenko's not going to be able to do what Pacquiao did and fly through up to 154 or 151 pounds, whatever it was, and win a world title like middleweight. It's not going to work like that. It's not going to happen again.
I mean,
very unrealistic. But in terms of Crawford, I don't know, because I think the size is the difference, Tom, if I'm honest, BG. So I think I'd have to go with Spence. Right now, I'd have to go with Spence until Crawford proves something and proves otherwise. But skill-wise, I think Crawford is more diverse and he can move better and he can do a lot more crafty things. But the reality is, if he catches Spence with a big shot or his biggest shot and Spence doesn't move and keep coming forward, then it's going to be a very, very tough night for. If his body can't hold up against the shots of a bigger man like that, and if his chin can't hold up, then there's a big problem. It's going to be Roy Jones Jr. over again.
One thing I would say is, Crawford, we've seen sort of adopt more than one game plan and sort of have a plan B, and I think he's quite a versatile fighter. I don't think the same can be said for Errol Spence just yet.
100%, yeah.
His plan A has just always worked. He takes you apart gradually. He chops away the bottom of the tree so the top will fall. That's what he does, and that's just been so effective so far that he hasn't had to show a plan B, and also, like you said, he hasn't taken a really big shot from a big puncher on the chin yet. So I think there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of dynamics. I wouldn't pick either of them sort of confidently. I certainly wouldn't be putting any more than like a tenner on anything like at this point. But yeah,
I think I think at this point, of course, based on welterweight just resume and time spent at welterweight, obviously you'd have to go with Spence because we haven't got any evidence to lean on when it comes to Crawford. So we have to give him a fight or two to see where he's at. But based on what he's accomplished so far, you'd think he'll do well at welterweight. We'll have to see. But I think the whole one thing about Crawford, which I'm going to ask you guys as well. As good as he is skill wise, as much as he can do the back foot game and the whole perceived negative style of back foot game and just making someone chase him around the ring, and he could very well do that against Spence if they ever do fight, and that's fine. And if he wins, then fair play to him. But he did that against Postal, but even then, there's points where you can see the dog in him. When he got caught with a shot, he wanted to get him back straight away. The same thing he did against Thierry Jean, Hank Lundy, all these boys. Whenever he got hit, he wanted to get him back straight away. And as intelligent as he is, that's fine. But do you think that could also be his downfall, where he could be, again, similar to Roy Jones against Antonio Tarver, where the dog comes out and he wants to trade and hit someone clean and get caught himself? Do you think that's a possibility with Terence Crawford because he's been caught before?
Yeah, I do.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I think that's a good observation, Sherry, and I think he's got away with taking those risks against the Gamboas of this world. But, against a guy in Errol Spence, who, as you say, is a massive, massive guy, could end up being a middleweight, and also has a very, very high KO ratio and has taken out some pretty decent fighters. I think that would be a substantial risk. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, Errol Spence sits down on just about every punch he throws as well. That's the other thing. He doesn't really throw like pity pat shots. He fucking hits you to hurt you every time he throws. So what you're talking about there is like if Spence, if Crawford did do that and got caught by Errol Spence clean, I'd find it hard to see him not going down from that. I just think, I mean, that's a definite possibility in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
possibility. I'm not sure Spence is the biggest one-punch hitter. Who sort of grinds you down and works you to the body and wears you away. But certainly a guy like Crawford doesn't want to be taking unnecessary shots from a guy like Spence.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So it's that work rate and that unrelenting pressure that he puts on people. Even I don't want to compare Spence to Triple G because there's nothing to compare. But in that same vein, where I don't think Triple G is the same. He's not a one-punch knockout artist either. In that regard, is he? He's a guy who breaks people down, isn't he?
Oh, I don't know. I think Triple G is a one-punch knockout artist as well. I think.
I don't think he is. I think maybe against certain opposition he was, but as he's gone on, he's not been. And that's not disrespect to him. It's just more, the people he's fighting as well. Especially his last couple of fights, he's been against tougher opposition. Put it this way: if he was a one-punch knockout artist and he did that, all the way up until the Kell Brook fight, he should have technically knocked out Kell Brook with one punch. You get what I'm saying? He's not a one-punch guy. Same way Anthony Joshua isn't a one-punch guy. It's one of those ones, isn't it? They're more like volume punches and how do I put this? It's more where they punch. Golovkin's always been very accurate, and he's kind of hit people in the right places. And that punch against Marco Antonio Rubio was so unorthodox. So top of the head, you put him down. You know what I mean? There's always a different way that he finishes people off before, but now it's kind of changed. Of course, he's slightly older, things change, but he's never. I've never looked at him as a one-punch, knockout artist. He's not that type of guy, in my opinion.
But I think he, like what you say there as well is like, if you remember, was it
Daniel Gill?
No, not Daniel Gill. Fucking hell, the Brummy lad, Irish, Macklin.
Yes, Matthew Macklin. Yeah.
That the left to the body, like
the body shot. Yeah.
Fucking Macklin said he was still fucking pissing blood about 3 weeks later or whatever. Like, I think Triple G is a kind of like, I think he can be a one-punch knockout artist. I think he is more sort of like he likes to set things up and he likes to sort of like just keep the pressure on. But I mean, if you think about the last couple of fights, Jacobs was Jacobs was huge in there. There was no way he was going to knock out Jacobs like with one punch like that, wasn't he? He still dropped him. Do you know what I mean? I think Triple G is one of the hardest punches in boxing, to be honest.
No, he's definitely one of the hardest punches. I've never looked at him as like, my definition of one punch knockout is I'm looking more at the head kind of thing, as silly as it might sound. Straight on the chin knockout. I've never seen him do that to anyone like full stop. But I get what you're saying in terms of you're talking about just punch the body kind of thing as well, which is fair enough. But at the same time, there's a lot of fighters who've been floored with a body punch from even people who aren't considered big punches. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think the Gil knockout you could really look at like that. If he got hit at the same time.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. That's a good example of him being a one punch guy. But you get what I'm saying about Spence and Golovkin in that regard, in the sense that they're both pressure fighters.
Yeah, definitely.
They're not similar, but they both have that tactic of coming forward. They'll take a few shots here and there, but they're going to make sure they get you in the end. That type of thing. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get at. I didn't want to go into too much detail in that regard because they're not similar in that sense, but just on the sheer pressure. But yeah, so Spence right now, he's the guy until Keith Thurman, gets back in the ring, and we'll see what he's got.
Yeah. So, well, I'll wait and give my opinion in just a moment because I can see Irish Tom has been waiting. So let me try and bring him in. Irish, how long have we got you for, mate?
War Irish.
Hello,
Tom. How you doing?
Hear me?
Yes.
Not too bad. I'm in bed sick.
You don't sound your best, mate. Is it about a man flu? Is it?
It is terrible bout of the man flu.
Oh dear. How long have we got you for?
Probably 2 or 3 minutes or something. That's about all my voice will hold up for, I'd say.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'll ask you the big questions, and then we'll let you get back to your deathbed. But thank you very much for phoning in, especially when you're feeling so rough. Spence versus Peterson, mate. What did you make of it?
Well, all the different podcasts and all the different things I've been listening to, very few, or nearly, I might say none, but no one has mentioned the fact that your man, what's the guy who lost? Say again?
Lamont Peterson?
Yeah, Lamont Peterson, that he's a drug cheat. Everybody's saying that he's a nice guy and I like him and all this. Screw him. He cheated. He was off his tits on, what was it, testosterone when he fought Amir Khan. So I can't stand any drug cheats. So Lamont Peterson can rot in hell. I thought Spence just beat him up. He's a seek and destroy merchant. And there is the touch of Golovkin to him. I agree with Sherry. There was parts in it when he was when he would nearly run across the ring after Peterson when he would hurt him and Peterson would peel back away. He was literally nearly running across the ring like Golovkin was doing with Kell Brook. So I think Spence's his footwork seemed to be really good in that fight. I thought Spence was brilliant. I thought he was really good, but I think Terence Crawford will deal with him. I back Crawford 100%.
Okay. Why is that? Do you think he's just vulnerable to someone with that sort of punching and moving?
I just think that Crawford is Kell Brook's a good boxer, but Crawford's a million times better than Kell Brook. Crawford is one of those elite boxers. If people want to see what he'll be able to do, watch the one where he fought John Molina, and John Molina ran around the ring after him for 8 rounds. He literally was really trying his best to pressure, and it wasn't stupid pressure. He was really, really trying to really pressure, and Crawford just danced and danced, and he bet the crap out of him while he was doing it. So, if I'm looking at this fight, if that fight gets made, hopefully that fight could get made at the end of this year for a unification. I just think the kind of style of fight that will be it won't be as easy, obviously, against Molina, but it will be a kind of a Hagler-Leonard type fight. But I think it'll be much easier for him than that. I just think that he's just too good on the back foot, and he's got too much of everything.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't actually disagree. I haven't delved in too much myself, but yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree with that analysis. Irish, looking ahead to next week, Alexander Usyk versus Marius Bradis, the first semi-final of the World Boxing Super Series. Good fight, possibly the top two at cruiserweight. What's your take on it?
Oh yeah, I think it's an easy win for Usyk. Like, I was looking at the odds. I think Usyk's into 1-6.
Yeah,
It's hard to say there's value in 1-6, but I just can't see Bradis now. I thought Usyk was excellent against Hook, and like Usyk was actually good to watch against Hook. For the first time I've seen Usyk, I didn't like his style because he needs to fight at a high tempo, and he seems to be able to do it. When he fights at high tempo, his style is good to watch, but when it's slow tempo, it's very poor to watch. So, like, I think that he'll probably stop Bradis. If he fights high tempo, I think most of these cruiserweights won't be able to put up with him. So, I think it's an easy for me. And I used to rate Bradis, but Bradis I think is slowed down, and it was his dynamism that was what was really good about him. And with his speed going, his power will go. So I just think he'll get outboxed all night. I think it's an easy 10 rounds to 2 kind of a fight.
Understood. Okay. Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray, Tom. Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of is what it is, but is that one you're looking forward to?
Well, who was it? Was it Robert the Bruce? Did he go to Rathlin Island or something off Ireland? And he was after being defeated by the English or something, and he looked up at he was staying in some cottage or something off in this remote island, and he looked up and there was a spider, and the spider was trying to get up somewhere, and he fell, and the spider fell 7 times. And then or 6 times, and then the 7th time he got up there. And that's the way it is with Martin Murray. Like, I think he'll probably lose 2 more world title shots, and then on the 7th one, he might get it.
He's not going to beat Billy Joe Saunders, though, is he?
Not a hope. Not a hope. Is anybody getting excited for Chris Eubank Jr. against George Groves yet?
Do you know what? I'm massively excited for the fight. It's one of the best fights out there. There seems to have been a little bit of a lull in the promotion, but hopefully when the Super Series gets kicking on again, and maybe it will start getting a bit more airtime.
Yeah, God, I watched Groves Frotch there yesterday. I was bored and sick, and the first one, and it was a great fight. But and I watched Murray and Groves. Anybody who thinks that Martin Murray is able to get to George Groves, and anybody who thinks that Jamie Cox is going to be able to get to George Groves, what the fuck is Chris Eubank Jr. going to do to him? I can't see it unless George Groves pulls out some big shots, and we know he's capable of it. But barring that, I just can't see how Martin Murray can get to him after 10 rounds. What the hell is Chris Eubank Jr. going to do to him?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how that market has developed. I think you and I backed Eubank at 5-4, Tom. He's now 1-2 with a lot of the bookies, isn't he?
I know. I'm nearly thinking of putting money on Groves and the other way and just winning both ways. But then I'm like, why give away all that fucking free money?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a hell of a one. Has anybody seen that advert for the Coley making burgers?
I thought that was genius. I've retweeted it on Twitter. The British beef card, yeah, they've got an advert with Lawrence Coley flipping burgers and Chamberlain saying he's going to send him back to McDonald's. I absolutely buzzed off it, Tom.
When that happened, that's the best boxing bit of promotion since Scott Quigg walked from his house. All I could think of was Scott Quigg fucking walking down the street in his bare chest.
Oh dear. Yes. Yeah. Tom, I can tell you're not on top form, mate. Anything else you want to say?
Just that I love you guys, and I'm lying in bed here, and you're deep in my thoughts.
Fantastic. Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate you tuning in from your sick bed. And hopefully you can join us next week, and you'll be back to fighting fitness.
Well, I'm putting Jay, not Jay, screw Jay. I'm putting Jet to shame because he's sick as well. So you hear this, if you're listening, this is a call out. You're only wishy-washy. You're not in this for the hard times, Jet. You hear me?
We wish yourself and we wish Jet a full recovery. Good stuff. Cheers, Irish, mate.
See you.
Catch you soon. Cheers, guys.
See you, Tom. Take care, but you feel better soon, mate.
Guys, I'll ask you both about Murray, Billy Joe in a minute. Let me just give my take on the Crawford situation first. I actually agree with Tom. I think that Crawford would have an advantage over both Thurman and Spence. They are bigger than him. They probably do hit harder than him. I really think he is a supreme technician. I think he's a little bit ahead of those guys in terms of technique and ahead of skill. And I kind of think that he could actually have the potential to make those fights a lot easier than we suspect. But, as the guys in the panel have correctly pointed out, 147 is an unknown. And there is a saying that a good one always beats a good little one. A good big one, it always beats a good little one. And, at some point, if Crawford keeps moving up and keeps moving up and keeps moving up, he'll find one step too far. My instinct is that 147 won't be that step too far. But there we go. Just wanted to throw my hat into the ring on that one. Guys, 140 people watching live. Well under half of you have hit the thumbs up button. Please take the time to hit that. That will get more people tuning into the channel. That will help spread this to a bit of a wider audience. So please hit the thumbs up, and please do that even if you're only watching this after it's been uploaded to YouTube at a later date as well. Paul, let me ask you about Billy Joe Saunders versus Murray. What was your take on this fight as and when it was first being announced?
I guess I was a little bit surprised. It's not an awful fight, but I'm with you. I don't think it's competitive. I think Billy Joe just schools him. Probably just looks like Lemieux again. I don't think it'll be a good fight at all. I think it'll be quite a boring fight. Probably a 12-0. At this stage, certainly at this stage of Murray's career, I don't see any way he wins. The one thing that sort of like, me, I'm a ponderer. I like to sit and ponder these things. The one thing that I found myself pondering more than anything, which is never a good sign when you're thinking of a fight matchup, when you're, somebody, a fucking like diehard sort of like crazed boxing fan like me, when you find yourself thinking about the fact that it's at the O2 and how embarrassing it's going to be if they don't sell it out. So my sort of like lasting thought on that was anybody with a decent sized YouTube channel with a little bit of networking and a little bit of Twitter communication could probably land themselves quite a few free tickets, because I don't think that event is going to sell out at the O2 at all. What's it? Flanagan on Flanagan versus what's his
Hooker. The only thing is I've started to see the first rumours, and these really are distant rumours. I've got no source. I've got no guarantee. Fury may appear on the undercard. We've seen that he has had a dramatic weight loss in recent weeks. Apparently, he's lost 4 stone in the last 8 weeks. He actually looked in far better condition in recent updates. And with the Billy Joe Saunders link and the fact that they've booked the O2, that is one of the rumours circulating.
4 stone in how long?
8 weeks.
I don't believe. Well, I mean, this is my personal opinion. Again, I don't want to land your channel in hot water or anything. This is just my personal opinion, and I'm a nobody. Yeah, I don't believe that's possible naturally. 4 stone in 8 weeks. I really don't believe that's possible. I was of the opinion, and until I see something a little bit more substantial, I know, as you said, it's just, you know, very, very vague rumors and that. Until I see something a little bit more concrete, I very, very much doubt we're going to see Tyson Fury any sort of, like, even in the early half of this year. I'd even be quite surprised if it wasn't start of next year that we see Tyson Fury back. He was just simply too far overweight for me. I think that's very unlikely.
He does actually, in the recent photos, he does look like the weight has come off. And, you know, I know people will be suspicious of Tyson Fury, and, you know, potentially there will be more reason for that than in the past with some of the news stories. But I guess when you are that big to begin with, and I guess when you are, you know, 26 stone and, you know, in that bad a condition, it's probably easier to lose 4 stone than the average man, I guess.
Well, I can say from personal experience, I was 22.5 stone at worst when I sort of, like, about a year after I came back from Iraq. I'd been in physical rehabilitation. I was in a wheelchair for 6.5 months and stuff. I got pretty fucking depressed, to be fair. And I put on I couldn't exercise, so I put on a hell of a lot of weight. And at one point I was like nearly 23 stone. And when I started to lose weight, it was like I was losing like 4 or 5 pounds a week. And even that was difficult. So, like, if you say 4 pounds a week in 8 weeks, that's what, 28 pounds. That's, you know, like, that's still some. And I was big. I mean, I wasn't quite as big as him, but I was big. That's still some way off that much. I don't know. That's I find that hard to believe personally.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess the one thing he does have in his favour is that he is a, you know, supreme talent and a supreme athlete, I guess. I'm not saying you're not, Paul. I'm sure your athleticism is at the same level, but
I'm not, but believe me.
yeah, I mean, look, I'll believe it when I see it with him back on that bill as well. But, you know, there's a lot of speculation online that will be where he re-emerges. He has talked about wanting to get out in that period, and obviously with the Billy Joe Saunders link and the fact that they've gone for, you know, the O2, it's probably added weight to those rumours. But yeah, I agree with you. That was actually my first instinct, Paul, is that it's going to be hard to sell out the O2 with that combination. And if you factor in, you know, that you've got Lawrence Okoli versus Isaac Chamberlain at the O2, it would be a particularly bad look if that sold out. And apparently tickets for that have gone exceptionally well. And then, you know, the card at the O2 headlined by Billy Joe and Terry Flanagan, 2 world title level fighters, did not.
It'd be awful, because in any sort of business where there is sort of like new competition, perception is everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would be pretty disastrous for Frank and the BT deal, I think, if they, you know, like, if the cameras sort of like panned around just before the you know, the ring walks of Billy Joe and Martin Murray to see, like, you know, 60-70% empty seats or whatever, that would be pretty embarrassing, I think.
Yeah.
So you want to get on Twitter. I know you're pretty active on Twitter. Start up a few convos with Frank and that, you know, set the groundwork here. As time gets closer, when you're saying when you're calling him Frank instead of Mr. Warren, you can get us all some tickets and we'll all have a good night out.
There we go. You got the master plan worked out. Sherry, what's your take on that matchup, mate?
On the Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, look, Martin Murray is one of those fighters. He's been unfortunate with the whole, you know, Sergio Martinez fight in Argentina, and was it, who did he fight before that in Germany? Was it Sturm?
Yes.
You know, and people always said, you know, I'm not gonna lie, to this day I haven't gone back and watched the fights myself. But the consensus has always been that, you know, that he was robbed of those decisions, and you know, if that is the case, then he's been unfortunate. But the reality is, look, he lost to Abraham in, I think it was November 2015. And that was his last world title shot. Then he lost to Groves in 2016, and what has he really done since to warrant the shot? You know, it's one of those ones, isn't it? What is he even doing in the middleweight rankings in the WBO when he fought a super middleweight recently? You know, I know he's kind of fluctuating between both weights, and that's fine, but you know, he's not really consistent in what weight he's staying at, and you know, the rankings don't make any sense, but whatever, that's fine. But I think, you know, he is pretty much done at top level. You know, him and Rosado wasn't very entertaining. It wasn't a great fight. And especially in the form that Billy Joe Saunders has shown after the David Lemieux fight, when he's you know 100% on it, this guy is gonna cause a lot of problems even for Golovkin and Canelo. And I mean that genuinely, because boxing isn't about just standing there and punching; it's the movement, it's everything. And Saunders had, you know, I know David Lemieux isn't the best middleweight; he's a top 5, and that's about it. And he's quite limited in what he does. But what he did in the ring shows that you know, there's levels here. And Murray, I don't think has much to you know offer against Saunders. And you know, Saunders is an underrated puncher in my opinion. You know, he hurt David Lemieux a lot in I think round 5 and round 7. You know what I mean? He's got the unexpected kind of same way he put down Andy Lee. I don't think anyone expected before the fight that he was going to put Andy Lee down heavy, you know, twice, and he did. He's underrated puncher. He's got, you know, the desire. He's hungry again. He wants to show the world that, you know, he can perform at the highest level. And I've got no doubt that Billy Joe Saunders is going to dominate this fight. I wouldn't be shocked if he stopped him at some point. I'm not saying it'd be a brutal stoppage, but I wouldn't be shocked if he, you know, put him down and, you know, hurt him with the body, whatever you want to, you know, however it happens. I just don't think he'll you know, make any mistakes against Martin Murray. If he does the exact same thing he did against David Lemieux, I understand David Lemieux is a very particular type of fighter and a particular style, but I just think Billy Joe Saunders at this point is too good for someone like Martin Murray. There's a few, you know, a level gap between these two guys, and especially where Martin Murray is at now, I don't think he can compete, you know, at a top world level, and that's where Billy Joe Saunders is. He's elite at middleweight, you know, in that regard. So yeah, I don't see it as a competitive fight, but for sheer name value and, you know, a British homecoming fight kind of thing after going to Canada, then fair enough. There's not really a problem, in my opinion. But touching on the whole, you know, not selling out the O2, you know how it is with Frank. He's not going to sell out the O2. His promotional pool is not as strong as Matchroom and Hearn and Sky Sports. That's the reality. They can sell out arenas. You know, like I said, if a Coley Chamberlain has more than a world title fight, you know what I mean, then it says it all, doesn't it, really? That the hype is not there with BT yet. As much as they've come on leaps and bounds in 1 year and they're delivering big enough fights for us to appreciate, the reality is these fights are not resonating with casuals yet. I'm sure they will at some point, because that's the whole point. They're putting the building blocks in place now, and it's got to be a long-term plan for them. It's not going to blow up overnight and become, you know, Sky Sports 2.0, really. It is always going to be number 2 to Sky Sports as long as they've got Joshua and a few other, you know, big names. And their system is working. BT can't really compete yet, but, you know, as for the fight itself, I don't think Murray will win around, if I'm honest.
The thing with Sky is, yeah, they're kind of like, they've been there for so long now. You know, like you've got, you know, Sky Sports News and stuff like that. And when there's a big fight on, it's like every few minutes you're getting reminders of it. I think Sky will always be there, and therefore, you know, they're always going to have a bit of an advantage. If you've been watching a certain sports news channel for years, unless they like start dropping off in their content really badly, you're just going to keep watching them. It's like if you go to McDonald's and then, you know, like a Wendy's pops up, you just can, you know, unless it's like there's a reason to, you're not going to swap. And like, they've just got an advantage that I think is going to be hard to turn around. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, don't think Frank Warren's sort of like promotional. If you just look at some of the press conferences he's put on in the last couple of years, I've seen, you know, press conferences with banners falling down, like coming and stuck at the side and like being half fallen down as the press conference is taking place and stuff. Then you look at the sort of polished Matchroom stuff. It's just, he doesn't seem to be kind of like on the same level just all round. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they have improved. To be fair, they have improved,
yeah,
but it's not quite a level playing field just yet. And when we're on the subject, did you guys see that the February the 10th card that Frank had booked at the Copper Box, which we were due to talk about? It was Zolani, Teti, Bradley, Skeet, the Bois, and Yard. Did you see that they cancelled that?
Oh, they cancelled it. Okay, I'm not shocked.
They cancelled it. They released a statement, and for those of you who want to read the official statement, I have retweeted it on Twitter, and also it's from Frank Warren's verified Twitter page. Tete was injured. Daniel Dubois has come down with an illness and hasn't trained this week. And they were unable to get Bradley Skeet, a world-ranked opponent, so they've just decided to cancel it. A number of people who'd booked hotels and the like have taken the news pretty badly on Twitter. And then you've got other people saying, fair play for cancelling it. We'd rather it would be cancelled than put on a very, very substandard bill. So, regardless, for me, it's slightly disappointing because it was kind of on the calendar, and February was going to be a very, very busy month. But there you go. I guess, in a sense, fair play to recognising it and cancelling it rather than running with something massively below par. But yeah, so there you go. I've just seen Paul's going to have to jump off in a few minutes, so let me just bring Paul in again quickly. Paul, let me just ask you before you go. Firstly, Usyk Bradis, and secondly, just a quick take on this rumours about Andre Ward returning at heavyweight. Interested to hear your take on those before you shoot off, mate.
I mean, Usyk Bradis. I think it's going to be a fairly routine win for Usyk. I just think Usyk is a level above everybody else at cruiserweight. I think he's just too good. I was quite impressed with Bradis, but then in the last fight, which was Mike Perez, I know Mike Perez was quite a bit bigger, and I think this plays into that a little bit. He held a lot, and he seemed to run out of ideas. The amount he held in that fight was kind of ridiculous. He's not going to be able to get away with that with Usyk. And Usyk is just coming into his own at the minute. I think he is just quite a bit better. I think Usyk, depending on how good Bradis' chin is, I think Usyk might stop him, to be completely honest. But I don't see this as anything other than an Usyk win. I think just Usyk will just win that tournament, full stop. Andre Ward, oh man, it was obvious he was going to come back into boxing. He's not 40 or anything, is he? I think it was inevitable that he was. I thought that anyway. I thought he'd probably come. Wins a world title at light heavyweight, has a rematch, wins again, and then retires. It kind of it had the ring to me of look, when guys retire and then they come back, it's extra promotion for them, isn't it? It's extra sort of hyping of whatever fight they're going to have, because the story of them coming back out of retirement is like an extra story, isn't it? It's an extra little bit of, I think, he probably will come back. As far as him coming back at heavyweight, I'm not so sure. I think his ego is big enough, and that he might. But depending on who he beats, I think, and who he fights, I think he could come unstuck quite badly there. Because if you remember, a while ago, he's talking about fighting AJ. I think if Andre Ward gets in the ring with AJ, he will get absolutely destroyed. I don't care how good people think he is, and you know what I think about Andre Ward. I'm not an Andre Ward fan. I think he's one of the dirtiest fighters maybe I've ever seen. If you look at fights like the Kessler fight, even the Kovalev, that second fight. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, if gonad punching is one of the sort of new sort of ways that you win a fight, then yeah, great, he's brilliant. But other than that, I just think he's a dirty fighter. And my problem with him is not so much that he's a dirty fighter. My problem is that he's a dirty fighter and he tries to put himself across as, son of God. I thank God for this, and I'm so religious and blah blah blah. He tries to make himself out to be the nice guy, and in actual fact, he's kind of a bit of a scumbag, to be fair, for me. So maybe he will, but to be honest, I'd like to see him come back at heavyweight and get smashed up. To be completely honest, don't like him.
Yeah, interesting. Dwyer did a video today, and he said that he would give Warder a good chance against the guys like Wilder and Joshua because of the boxing advantage. It is hard to see. It is hard to see. We have weight divisions for a reason. For me, surely this is a step too far, Paul, like you suggest.
Of course. How does he beat Joshua? Seriously.
I think Dwyer's suggestion was that he'd outmaneuver him and probably be able to read Joshua's money punches, which are limited in Dwyer's opinion.
I don't see that. Don't see that happening at all. I think Joshua's timing is really good. The size, I mean, Jesus, like what's Ward, 6 foot?
If that.
Maybe 6 foot. We're talking about a 6'6" monster. No, I don't see that happening at all. But personally, I think deep down they probably know that. I think if he does come back at heavyweight, it's probably going to be something like a Bellew fight or something like that. Get some of the UK pay-per-view revenue, something like that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe anticipating a pullout from David Haye, the same way I've been since the rematch got announced. I think David Haye is a guy that should be sitting on the corner of the road with hazard lights on. I think he's actually broken down. His body is sort of like, he's like what was it? What was the Wizard of Oz, where his body parts, not the Wizard of Oz, where his body parts kept falling off. Humpty Dumpty, yeah, it's fucking like, yeah, he's falling apart, David Haye.
There. So, yeah. I mean, I think I don't disagree there, Paul. I know you've got to run, mate, but we'll hopefully catch up with you next week.
Yes, mate. Yeah, cheers for having me. Have a good week, lads.
Yeah, always a pleasure. All the best, Paul. Sherry, I know you messaged me a few minutes ago, but wanted to get Tom and Paul in. Showtime are revealing their spring schedule, and you've got the schedule live and to hand. So perhaps a bit of breaking news, Sherry.
Yeah, I mean, they've revealed it. I've got a photo with all the schedule for the next few months. Should I go ahead and read it out?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, so January, obviously, we're done. So February, which we know we've got Garcia versus Rios as a final eliminator for WBC title, with Benavidez versus Gabriel 2 rematch for the super middleweight title on the same card. Then March, we've got Wilder versus Ortiz for the WBC heavyweight title, with Charlo versus Santino for the WBC interim championship at middleweight, which will obviously then place that winner as the mandatory for Triple G or Canelo winner if that gets announced. Then moving forward, we've got the rescheduled Mikey Garcia versus Lipinets for the IBF light welterweight world title on March 10th, with Bartholomew versus Relic 2. I think it's Kyle Relic, the guy that fought Ricky Benz, isn't it? That's a rematch as well from last year for the WBA light welterweight championship. And then moving forward, this is where it's getting interesting. April 7th, now officially announced, Eris Landy Lara versus Jarrett Hurd, 154-pound unification, which I didn't think would come off. To be fair, I'm not a negative person. I was just very pessimistic that fight would get made. But you know what? Fair play to both of them. That's a massive fight for that weight division. We have a unified champion. And also the return of Gervonta Davis on the card. It doesn't say who he's fighting or what weight class, but that's a big name on the undercard. Then, that's April 7th. April 21st, we've got, interestingly, Adrian Broner versus Omar Figueroa, which would be a great fight. That's a WBC 140-pound eliminator. So I think the winner of Amir Imam, and then who's he fighting? I forgot who's fighting for the vacant title. You know, he's fighting one of the Mexican guys, isn't he, from Golden Boy, I think. He was a top rank. He's fighting a guy, I forgot his name. He fought a few weeks ago. So yeah, whoever wins that fight between him and Amir Imam, they'll be fighting him. And then, you know who it is?
No, sorry, the line isn't as good as it was, mate. You're sounding ever so slightly distant. I don't know if you put it on speaker at all.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little bit better, mate. So I could make out what you were saying. It was a bit of a struggle there. So it's Broner Figueroa for like a sort of final eliminator type setup, is it?
It doesn't say final eliminator, it says eliminator, but yeah, so it's an eliminator. with Gervonta Davis returning on the card.
Oh, sorry, you've got it again, mate. Sorry, it's pretty bad now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, that's clear.
Yeah, sorry, here we go. So it's as you said, Broner versus Figueroa in an eliminator for the WBC 140 title, and then Gervonta Davis returning, but it doesn't say about his weight class or opponent just yet.
Okay.
Then moving forward, it gets interesting, but I think it's a bit late in the year. I don't like how late this fight is. At the Barclays Center, it'll be Keith Thurman returning on May the 19th, which is a bit far out, personally. Sorry?
April 19th.
No, May the 19th.
Oh, May the 19th. Okay, yeah, that does feel like a long way out, doesn't it? Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen now. He's going to fight then, and he won't fight till December then or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If he even fights twice this year, because he is becoming one time a year, isn't he?
Yeah.
So let's see. So yeah, I'm not really happy with that. It doesn't say Jesse Vargas, but everyone in boxing knows that fight's pretty much done. Which for me personally, that's two top 10 welterweights. I don't see any issue with it. Jesse Vargas will give him a good fight, but he'll lose. But yeah, it's a good fight. And then same date in Canada. I don't know if it'll be a dual stream. Stevenson versus Jack.
I like that one. I do like that one. I view that as a very good
May 19th. So it's the same night. I don't know how they're going to do it, or if they'll move it around. But so far, it says it's a two fight card, but they're going to be broadcast separately. Obviously, Stevenson's going to fight in Canada as he always does, and Keith Thurman will be fighting from Barclays Center. Then moving forward to June the 9th, you've got the rematch between Santa Cruz and Mares. So I don't think anyone's clamoring for it, but the first fight was a good little fight. But again, that's late in the year. I don't know why they're waiting from October 2017 to June. Sorry, was it February? October they fought, wasn't it? When they both fought on the card in Los Angeles StubHub Center.
It must have been around then, yeah. Must have been around.
Yeah. It was Chris Avalos, that was it. Chris Avalos in Santa Cruz and Mares versus someone else. Yeah. So they're waiting. How long is that? 8 months nearly to fight.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's taking the piss. Yeah. So 8 months, and then you've got Jamel Charlo returning on the card as well, which is fine. He fought in October as well. So that's another 8 months. He'll be out for a while. And then the return of Errol Spence on June the 16th in Dallas, which will be his homecoming fight against, I'm assuming, the mandatory what's his name? Whatever his name is.
Oh, I've forgotten it already. If I'm honest.
That says it all. But yeah. So realistically, it's going to be his mandatory fight in his hometown. He's a champion. He'll get 75-25. So realistically, that's what it'll be. But to be fair, that's a good little lineup, to be honest. But I'm not happy with the inactivity of these fighters. I mean, Keith Thurman, we know he's had an issue since 2016. He's only been fighting once a year. And I'm not happy with Adonis Stevenson and Jack being that late, because the last time Badou Jack fought was on Mayweather McGregor, and that's August. So you're going from August 26th to May the 19th. That's nearly 9 months. In that time, I can have a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not really... but, I mean, that's a good little schedule. Not as good as last year, to be fair, but it's a good little schedule. I can't really complain.
The activity of these fighters is extremely questionable, and for my money, it's stopping them from being the global stars that they could be. Guys like Keith Thurman, guys like Errol Spence, these guys should be en route to becoming some of the biggest names in the sport, and their activity has really prevented that. You look at Adonis Stevenson, he could have had a superstar career, and he's let it fade away through inactivity. Out of my mind, the two fights I like there, number one, Stevenson versus Badou Jack. Really like that fight. View it as a 50-50. And I also like Adrian Broner versus Omar Figueroa. Two talented guys, two guys who've had weight issues and kind of let that get in the way of their career somewhat. Adrian Broner is someone I have consistently overrated on this channel and made the mistake of buying into far too many times, but I'll probably be guilty of doing that again, and I view that as a very, very competitive fight as well.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. Are those the two standout fights to the schedule for you? Maybe the Lara Heard one as well?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Lara Heard is up there. But obviously, the issue with that fight you have is it could possibly end up being a bore fest if Lara just ends up, doing his normal shtick, which is fine. But I don't know. If Heard can't get to him and Lara outboxes him, then fair play to Lara in that regard. But it's not going to be entertaining, and that's the only issue I have in terms of you know, with these sort of fights, meaningful fights, you want them to have some sort of entertainment value. But it's a big fight, great fight. Looking forward to it. Hopefully, it'll be good. I'm glad to see Keith Thurman back. He's one of my favorite fighters. But Stevenson Jack is probably the one that stands out to me as a true, you know, 50-50 fight. And realistically, Badou Jack can stake his claim as, you know, a true, you know, light heavyweight champion. That WBA regular title didn't really mean anything, you know. But this will be a proper, you know, proper win.
Yeah. I mean, that was against my boy, my beloved
Yeah.
Nathan. As I'm sure you know. But but yeah, this is a top class fight, and I think the winner of this will be either the top or the number 2 light heavyweight. So it's a big fight certainly, and it's one that I'll look forward to as well. Sorry, thanks for bringing that, mate. That's a good spot from you to catch that halfway through the pod. Let me ask you about Ward versus cruiserweight and heavyweights. I presume if he is going to come back at a higher weight, he will be coming back at heavyweight because of the money and the glamour in that weight class. Well, what's your take on Ward at the heavier weights? Do you think he has the chance of success there? And do you think his skill and his technical ability and pedigree could give him, a chance of upsetting the odds and upsetting bigger men?
To be honest, I'm a realist, and I have to kind of look at it as, again, it's in the past you had Roberto Duran and Leonard, Tom Hearns, these guys flying through the weight classes, winning, losing, but fighting anyone and everyone. They had some bad knockouts on the way in and out of these divisions, but people will talk about these fighters throughout the years. Me and you obviously respect those fighters. We will consistently rank them in the top echelon of boxing, and I'm sure my kids will, when I create boxing junkies one day, they're going to know who these fighters what they accomplished. But in today's day and age, I don't see it as the same, and especially in recent years. Can you imagine Mayweather fighting a super middleweight, for example? It doesn't make any sense, does it?
No.
And you can even make the argument that Mayweather could have fought at 140 or 147. You see where I'm going with this? It's not Andre Ward at 175. If I'm honest, the first Kovalev fight, he didn't even look physically comfortable in the ring, even though I felt like he won the fight just about. He won it based on experience and wit. But the Andre Ward that walked in the second fight physically looked like a force. He looked like he made 175 properly in a good way, in terms of he had plenty of time to adjust in the first fight. Physically, his body looked like he was stronger, like more muscle mass, everything. And he physically, outworked and out-hustled and essentially beat up Kovalev towards the end of that fight, regardless of, the controversy that people have with that fight. I felt he'd be broken down, and he hurt, and we saw Kovalev. The crusher, for me, finished that day. I don't think he'll ever be the same after that. But regardless of what he does now, the crusher is done. Kovalev will still be a force, but Kovalev is not the crusher anymore. That's the way I look at it. And that was down to Andre Ward, regardless of whatever controversy people may think. I don't really think it was that controversial now looking back on it. But for him to come back at heavyweight or cruiserweight, I can buy, because he can fight, a Tony Bellew if Bellew feels like it's a good fight, or he can fight with Parker with no belt on the line. A valuable fight then. But if he's going to come back and he comes back at heavyweight, he can't get in the ring with Anthony Joshua. That's silly. I think that's just personally. I think he can get hurt very, very badly. That's not to discredit Ward and give too much credit to Anthony Joshua. The reality is, it's too much size and weight differential, and skill can only take it so far. You know what I mean? As skilled as he is, he's not as elusive as Mayweather or someone like that. Andre Ward is skillful, but he's not defensively minded in that way. He can dodge every kick thrown his way. I just don't see any reason for that, and I think Joshua would laugh at the prospect anyway. And he'd have to work his way into that position. He can't just walk in and demand a unified world heavyweight title fight, against Joshua, can he? He's too small. If he was to come back at heavyweight, there's only one fight that makes sense, and that's only to get his name in the history books in a way, and that's to fight Manuel Charr for the regular title at WBA. But me and you aren't going to look at that as a legitimate world title win. That's going to taint his career more than doing any good for it. Do you get what I'm saying? To finish on the note he finished was better than to come back and fight for a regular WBA heavyweight title against Manuel Charr. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. What about Bellew? I know you were saying Bellew at cruiserweight. Could he fight Bellew at heavyweight if the Hay fight didn't happen again?
Yeah, as a backup, that's fine. Love to see that, but again, I don't see it as a competitive fight. I think okay, sorry. Bellew is again a guy who me and you have underrated and never given him credit every single time he was proved us wrong in some way, and that's fine. But I'm sure his natural size and that will cause some little problems for Ward. But I think Ward technically and in the head is just too much for him from a boxing IQ perspective. As much as Tony Bellew is a guy, we've never really seen him give up in a fight. He's always kind of giving it a go. I just don't see. There's not. It's a money fight in terms of Eddie Hearn will get booked the O2 and that's fine, and they can have a fight and then make the money, no problem. He'll sell that fight well. We know that's possible. That's not an issue. It only makes sense for that fight to happen here. It wouldn't make any sense in America. But without a title on the line, I don't see the need for Ward to come back and fight Bellew, because Bellew's not that much of a big name. Does that make sense? He's not as much as he will say and Hearn will say that the line he keeps using is, I am the most valuable name outside of the champions. He's been saying that since he beat David Hay. And yes, maybe in the UK he is, but worldwide he's not. And that's all fine and dandy because he's only going to fight in the UK anyway. He knows that's where he's going to make millions. He's not going to make millions in America because Bellew's not a valuable name outside of the fact that he beat David Hay. Now, in that regard, and yeah, cool. If David Hay doesn't come through, then fine. I'd love to see that fight, and I'd love to see Andre Ward come back. But at the same time, is it worth coming back after Bellew gone out to fight Tony Bellew for no title? Doesn't make sense. There needs to be something on the line. And yes, I read something a few months back when they were saying that before Andre Ward retired, and they were saying that a Bellew fight would be a viable option. That was before I think the Bradis and Huck fight for the cruiserweight title, and they were saying that they might do he would be like, the way Vitaly Klitschko is emeritus champion and Mayweather's emeritus champion for the WBC, where if they ever come back that division or come back to boxing, they will automatically qualify for a mandatory shot. They were saying that would be that bout would be on the line between Ward and Bellew, but it doesn't make any sense. For Ward to beat him and then go and fight the winner of the World Boxing Super Series, it doesn't make sense. It's too much like political drama here for Ward to even think about fighting Bellew and then worry about fighting for a world title. For him to come back, he wants to become a three-time world champion, and he said that in interviews. But it doesn't make sense. The reality is, money-wise, yes, I get it, but he doesn't need the money. He's got millions. He's a sensible guy. He's a family man, so he's not someone who's blows money. Or you'd think that anyway. Fingers crossed he won't. But I don't see any viable option apart from like title fight. There's no reason.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It depends on his motivator. If he's legacy orientated, he's probably going to want to look at world titles. If he is money motivated, then the Bellew fight, the going down that sort of route is obviously going to be very, very attractive. But as you say, presumably Andre Ward is someone who's very financially comfortable, and he's not going to be risking his health and risking his future just for the sake of money, given the state of his bank balance, as we presume. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And look, we know that he's weighing 199 at present. We know that he's talking about big things to come on Twitter. But, who knows? Maybe he's got a role in a movie and he's had to bulk up for that. He may just be having a bit of fun and creating some hype to, keep himself in the news. Let's put it that way. But it'll be an interesting one to keep tabs on and see how it develops. Sorry, before we drop off, the other one that I was, of course, keen to ask you about was the big fight this weekend, mate. Usyk versus Bradis, which I know we've referred to earlier on. But what's your take on that one? How competitive do you see it? And is there any potential for an upset? I know you've certainly not been afraid to pick against Usyk in the past.
I've learned my lesson, let's put it that way. And just put it out there, you know what it is? I'm not even saying it's a joke. I don't even know why I don't remember why I said that. So that's on me, and I live with that. I wear that title. But yeah, I mean, in terms of this fight, I think this fight is only as difficult as you try to make it. And it's not. That's not saying Bradis isn't good. He's a good fighter. Done well, to get in that regard. Of course, he's a top 4, top 5 heavyweight as well. His credentials speak for himself in that regard. But the reality is, last fight was very boring. He didn't, he didn't excite anyone. He didn't really show, that he has what it takes to get in there with Usyk and beat him. To me personally, of course, yeah, cool. If he won the fight, that's fine. But I don't see what he can do in there apart from, land something big on him and then wobble him, hurt him, and finish him. I can't see him for 12 rounds, outboxing someone as dynamic and, as just so different. Like, there's no one that fights like Usyk. I'm not going to say, people say, oh, and him and Lomachenko are the same. They're not. They're very different fighters, completely different. Of course, the weight makes them naturally very different fighters. Much bigger man, he can't do what Lomachenko does, but because they're both, Ukrainian and they train together, people have that, in their head that they're the same. But, Usyk is that far ahead from me, especially compared to Bradis. Bradis is a basic but good fighter. He does the basics well, but I don't see how he's going to excel in the ring against someone like Usyk, who is going to... Usyk is the type of guy who... He's got a bit of banter as well. You see him messing around the ring, making faces, doing dances that he did like with Huck as well, and he's done it before. So he's the type of guy who'll get in your head as well. So yeah, I think Usyk will punish him and stop him, or 12-round unanimous decision. But I think he's going to want to put on a show because this is his first, unification. And bear in mind, Usyk is only 13 fights in, so his 14th fight, he's looking to become a unified world champion. He's going to want to make a statement. So I think he might stop him. I don't really give Bradis much of a chance, but that's no disrespect to him for giving credit to what Usyk is and what I think he's going to be moving forward. Yeah, for me, it's Usyk. I do think he's going to become, the second man from after Terence Crawford to unify all titles in recent memory. I think he's going to unify all 4 titles by May time once he wins this tournament, whoever he faces. So I think he just got too much in the locker at that way. Too many, different things he can do. So I pick Usyk, let alone this fight.
Yeah. No, mate, I'm with you. And I think the tournament holds, that's one of the huge appeals of the Cruiserweight tournament is it creates that opportunity to be the unified champion and to, to get all the belts and take all the big fights. And I think Usyk's grabbing that with both hands. And if he's able to do that, and if he is able to, unify, it's the perfect launch pad for him to take off into the heavyweight division and, start a big campaign there against a huge name. So it's an interesting one. Sherry, I'll be honest, we've got lots of people in the chat complaining about sound problems. It hasn't been ideal for the last 10, 15 minutes or so, but it has been workable from my side. Slightly quiet a week this week, although the schedule does pick up in earnest in next week, in truth. But let me just ask you before we kind of wrap it up for tonight, is there anything else you want to touch on, any other stories, or have we covered it all for tonight?
Sorry, I apologize about the sound quality. I don't know what's happened there. It was fine earlier on. Sorry. Anything else you want to touch on? Not really. I've gone blank too much. I think I've spoken enough.
No, it's all good, mate. To be fair, your sound is usually bang on. It's usually Mr. J who is the big problem, or Irish Tom. But yeah, I guess it happens to all of us. We get dodgy connections from now and then. But yeah, sorry. Thank you very much for joining us from start to close and being the only member of the panel who's made it from first bell to last bell. Your return to the pod has been exceptionally well timed, actually, because you've done a stellar effort in both of the 2 weeks you've been back. Thanks also to Paul for joining us for the first hour, and to Irish Tom for his cameo appearance, even though he is obviously under the weather. Jet, if you're listening, we hope you get better soon. Jay, if you're listening, we hope your work was not too painful this evening. And hopefully we'll be back next Wednesday with a busier podcast and a full panel. But yeah, thanks very much to everyone who's watched. Thanks to everyone who's hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't done so already, please take the time to press subscribe on the channel so you can check out all of the stuff. And we'll be back next Wednesday at 8:30. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, everyone.